What's up, brother? How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
Yes, indeed. Now, in one of the episodes, you told me about Ethereum.
Yes.
You told me to jump on that.
There is a lot.
You told me to jump on that.
Yes, there is a lot going on with Ethereum.
Okay. So I also want to know, or I also want to say that every one of these Bitcoins kind of has a purpose or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yes. Every one of these Bitcoin knockoffs is there for a reason.
It's there for a reason.
You said it.
And it makes me think about like dogs. Like every dog has a little specialty. Like a a bloodhound can smell really good.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So with the Ethereum, what would you say the special thing about Ethereum is?
So the special thing about Ethereum is a smart contract. And not only smart contracts, but traceability. This is something that Bitcoin kind of has as this one-off feature that they don't really use. But Ethereum uses it really well. Mm-hmm. And the ability to store massive amounts of data.
Oh, nice.
And one thing that people don't appreciate enough about Ethereum is its potential to solve massive social problems.
Okay.
Like climate change, for example.
Wait. A Bitcoin has the potential to solve massive social change.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Elaborate, please.
So, with climate change, what we really need to do is track the carbon emissions. And right now, how we do that is incredibly inefficient.
Okay.
It's just a guess. It says, well, I think there's 1 million cars out there, and I think each car emits this much. It's total guesswork.
All right. Who's guessing? Is that the EPA?
The EPA.
Okay.
We'll say, I think there's this many cars, and they emit this much on average, and they're driven this much. It's total 100% guesswork.
Okay. All right.
With Ethereum,
all right,
if each car were fitted with a sensor,
yes,
that actually, like it's actually in the tailpipe, you know how you have those catalytic converters, the muffler and all that kind of stuff, was fitted with a sensor,
yes,
that just hooked up to your Wi-Fi or whatever and said exactly this is how much carbon is coming out.
Yeah.
And put that on Ethereum. It would be provable that it came out of that particular sensor, because it's tied to that particular private key.
Okay.
Just like with just how you can know that a Bitcoin transaction comes from one particular address,
right,
and there's no arguing about it.
Right.
You can do the exact same thing with a sensor.
Okay.
And if you start putting these sensors everywhere, not only on cars, but on power plants,
right,
on all the electric smart meters
right,
they're starting to come out with,
right,
you can start to really track just how much is being emitted.
Right.
And you can show people how much damage they are doing individually.
Oh, maybe that's why we don't have it, because some people are in denial and they don't want to really have to admit that. Maybe that's why there's not a big push for it.
Exactly. And this can be a bit of a
touchy
subject.
It's sensitive.
It's a sensitive subject because some people don't think climate change is real. And there could be a lot of reasons for that. I mean, maybe you're in the oil and gas industry and you don't want your livelihood to fall out from under you and be at McDonald's. Maybe you don't want that. That's perfectly reasonable. Maybe you have a relative or someone you care about who's in the oil and gas industry, and you don't want that.
What if you just don't believe science or scientists, and you just think that the world, this is some folks I know that are not into climate change, say that the world, the ecosystem of the globe heals itself. So whatever it's doing it because it's supposed to do it, and whatever kind of contributions we're doing, the world will adjust and everything is going to work out anyhow.
So that's actually true.
Okay.
Talking directly to people like that, these biological systems do have feedback loops that we're just beginning to understand. The problem is, once those feedback loops reach their conclusion, Earth is going to be very different. Earth was very different back when there was dinosaurs. It was the climate was very different. It was a lot warmer. There was a lot less land. Things were totally turned around, and it was great for dinosaurs.
Right.
They were adapted to that environment.
Okay.
And if we set off those feedback loops, the most glaring one of all is in the Arctic.
Okay.
Because the Arctic not only has this blue ocean event, which we'll get into in a sec, the Arctic also has methane trapped underneath in the permafrost. This methane is an incredibly powerful greenhouse gas, and it is locked in the permafrost, frozen in there. And Exxon knew this was happening, knew climate change was happening, because it's on record that their own scientists said, hey, if we keep emitting all this carbon, the temperature is going to go up and the permafrost is going to melt and it's going to release all this methane that's going to just make it worse. That's one of these feedback loops you're talking about. And what did Exxon do?
Kept on going.
Not only that, they reinforced the foundations of their installations in the Arctic. So they knew it was going to happen and took concrete action to mitigate it, but not prevent it.
Wow. Okay.
The higher ups knew. Anyway, that's a whole other deal.
That's a whole other thing. All right, but the point is that I hear what you're saying is that there is some validity to that particular concept about climate change. However, it's not going to be the daisies and roses at the end of it all.
Exactly.
It's going to have a different outcome because it's in its correction.
Exactly, because once those feedback loops reach their conclusion, we're going to have no Arctic, no Antarctic, no coastal cities anymore, huge hurricanes because now there's more heat being trapped to rile up more hurricanes. All of this stuff is going to be like it was geologic time ago when humans didn't even exist. And we're going to have to deal with it if we don't use Ethereum to cut down on climate change.
Okay,
And
all right.
the important part about Ethereum is that Ethereum allows us to do this freely
Okay.
rather than as the Green New Deal.
Okay. And so what's the Green New Deal?
What's the Green New Deal? You haven't heard of the Green New Deal?
Well, I want to know what the Green New Deal is. That's
You
what
do,
I do.
All right.
I
So
sure do.
The Green New Deal is AOC's response to climate change. And she says, look, we have to use the power of the state to fix this problem. We have to get rid of gasoline. We have to get rid of coal. And we have to get rid of factory farming. And all of these things are technically correct, but she wants to do this in a very China-esque way. Because that's how socialists want to operate. They want to operate with centralized command and control.
Right.
They want to command everyone, we're going to get rid of your cars, we're going to make you ride the bus.
Right.
They don't care about Tesla. They don't care about, we're just going to have a clean version of a car.
Right.
They don't care about that. They want to get rid of your cars and make you ride the bus.
Okay.
They don't want the free market to decide, whether there's nuclear energy or wind, solar, or whatever. They don't want any of that. Even though there's advanced nuclear technologies like thorium, for example, which this is a bit of a sideshow, but thorium actually can't overload like Chernobyl or the Fukushima or any of that stuff.
Right.
I'll just draw this out real quick because it is a big deal.
And then for those who don't know Chernobyl, you should know a little bit about that. So you might want to elaborate on just those the two things that you made a reference to are plants that went wrong, right?
Yes, exactly. So this is where, in a typical nuclear reactor, the fissile material, or the stuff that's actually radioactive and generating all the heat, is in these fuel rods. And if these fuel rods get too hot, if the reaction gets out of control, if you've ever used a wood-burning stove, for example, and you put too much wood in there and it gets too hot and it starts to overheat, same principle.
Okay.
Same exact thing.
Okay.
If these get too hot,
bam,
they will explode and you will have a lot of radiation everywhere and it's not going to be any good. This is what happened in Chernobyl many years ago.
Is that radiation?
Yes,
that's your version.
It's all right. If you really wanted to draw radiation, it would look like this, because radiation is a wave.
Right. Yeah.
So it
Right.
really is not.
I like that version. I like that version.
That's good enough. All right.
Yeah.
I try. So this is what you have ordinarily.
Okay.
In a normal nuclear reactor. This is what happened in Fukushima, because the tidal wave overwhelmed the ordinary systems in place at the nuclear reactor.
Right.
And these got too hot because the tidal wave screwed up what was supposed to control the reaction, and it blew up. And now there's radiation everywhere, and Japanese government covering up all the people that died and pretending it didn't happen, and all these kind of problems.
Look into that on your own.
Yeah, look at it on your own because
it's a pretty interesting story.
There's there got to be radiation in the water, in the fish. It just
It's almost like every episode Nick talks to us about some kind of cover-up. You know what I mean? There's always some kind of cover-up going on. So I wonder what's in his mind about all of that.
Well, it's
there. The bank heist cover-up, that one. There's a cover-up, and it's really interesting. It's really, really interesting. He's exposing things in a particular way. And I like also playing the devil's advocate too. Like I like to throw things at Nick every now and then because really I'm voicing. I have a wide, eclectic group of friends, and so they have a variety of point of views, and I have several that would probably not agree with climate change.
Wow. Point to listen.
Yeah.
See the artist so in
Yes.
Well, no, I'm just trying to demonstrate that this is, maybe dots isn't the best demonstration, but this is radioactive material.
Yeah.
With thorium, the radioactive material is dissolved in a fluid. And it's only radioactive as long as it is within a certain density. You ever played with candle wax? You know, when it's in a tub, you can put your hands in it and it makes a little wax impression. If you've ever done that, it's just a little thing they have like there and stuff. But if you pour the wax out and it pours out all over the table and makes a big mess, it solidifies immediately and the heat's gone and it's done. Same thing here. If this liquid gets too hot, there's a plug in the bottom, and this plug will melt at a certain temperature, which is the melting point of this. If this gets too hot, it melts through the plug and into a holding tank, and it becomes diffuse. And at this point, there is no explosion because the heat is all gone.
Right.
And it can no longer sustain the reaction when it's diffuse, only when it's concentrated.
Thorium does this.
This is thorium. This is called a thorium MSR, molten salt reactor. And what happens here?
These things.
It's what happens here is just it means there is no Chernobyl with thorium. It gets rid of the biggest problem with nuclear energy. Mm-hmm. You can't have this explosion because of this safety valve. Technically, if you really wanted to, if everyone just went on lunch and walked away, this fuse would still melt and the whole thing would just shut down. No problem.
Wow.
And not only that, this actually, now the physics behind this is beyond me. I didn't do too well in chemistry class. The physics behind this is beyond me. But you can actually dump the radioactive waste out of here into this tank, and it uses it up.
What?
No nuclear waste. I'm not kidding.
Wow.
No atomic waste anywhere.
I like
because
that.
You just take this, you dump it in there,
and
it's gone.
Gone.
It's a function of the protons and the neutrons, and you can look up the process. If you can follow all that physics stuff, that's good.
Wow.
Sheldon and Big Bang Theory.
Big Bang Theory?
But yeah, so this is the kind of thing that could be enabled by things like Ethereum. Now this is
what about this Green New Deal though?
The Green New Deal. So AOC doesn't care about this kind of stuff.
Okay.
She just wants to say, I want more wind, I want more solar, and I want more batteries. Which, those do solve the problem. I'm not saying that they don't. It's just, AOC wants the China model. She wants to be in control. She wants...
What is it because of our current government system makes it that's the only way that it can go through? I mean, how does she behoove from it being so regulated? Maybe there's no other way.
So the reason that she wants it that way is that's how socialists have to operate.
Okay.
Because they need a centralized command and control.
Okay.
And the other reason is that free market solutions to climate change have so far gone nowhere.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people who don't think climate change is real.
Yeah.
And the problem is it got to be 115 degrees here last year, and it's never been 115 degrees.
Yeah.
You're starting to be able to see this kind of stuff. The entire state of Texas just froze solid last year. It's about 5 feet away from the equator, and it just froze completely solid.
A lot on that. Let's go back to the AOC situation.
Say who is AOC?
Yeah,
Who's AOC?
yeah. Who is?
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and the Socialist Squad. Here, we need to.
That's
Oh, no,
good.
we need to pull it up.
That's okay. While he's pulling it up, I'm going to go ahead and say, what is? Let me see here. What do you agree with the green information? Is it just the approach about it? Do you think that the green stuff is good?
Yeah.
You just don't like the socialist way of delivering it out.
Exactly, because the problem is that once you start down this socialist road, like AOC and the rest of her squad does, you give the government too much control. You give the government too much power. You say the only way to solve this is to implement this command and control that is going to centralize everything. And it's going to tell you, I don't care if you don't believe in climate change, you are going to get rid of your car and you're going to go ride the bus. And these kinds of one-size-fits-all solutions are not great.
Okay.
Because in New York, where AOC is from, riding the bus is great. So she says, hey, riding the bus is good for everyone.
Right.
It's good enough for me, it's good enough for you.
Right.
But riding the bus doesn't do so well in rural Kansas.
Right.
Riding the bus doesn't do so well here in California, where everything is
Spread out.
predicated around having a car.
Yeah.
So these one-size-fits-all solutions are good for a certain area or a certain demographic.
Now, this is where I'm at. I'm this kind of person. It's like I like to take a good idea, and if it doesn't fit for everybody, let's take the idea, the premise of the idea, and let it adapt. For example,
Exactly.
just like the minimum wage. Maybe not everybody needs 15 all over.
Exactly.
Just go in and just say, hey, look, this is what we need. It's really a percentage.
It's a percentage.
It's a percentage. And this particular, if you're in New Mexico, somewhere in Puebla, New Mexico, you might need 28% more, where in
Exactly.
LA, you're going to need like 53% more. You know what I mean? That type of thing. So,
100%.
So I think we should be, at least for me, I like a good idea. Any good idea that's on the table, I'd like it. Let's figure out a way how we can adapt this good idea so that it can be applicable and maximize it for the use that it is.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that is where Ethereum comes in. Because,
So for scratch the Green New Deal?
well,
Or just scratch the socialist approach that you say that is happening?
scratch the socialist approach.
Okay,
to
but
the Green
but
New Deal.
some of the content, you definitely...
Content is definitely needed.
Okay, good.
Because
All right,
if
good.
we keep dumping all this carbon into the air,
Okay.
you can do the science experiment yourself. You can get a canister of CO2 or whatever, and you can fill it in a jar, and you can put a heat lamp on it, and you can see that it heats it up.
Right.
And the effect of that is becoming more and more apparent.
Okay, so how does Ethereum correct this situation?
You could do it in all kinds of ways. You could do it by tracking the carbon emissions. You could do it by actually crowdfunding this kind of stuff.
Okay.
Because think of all the billions that have been poured in to cryptocurrencies, to these ICOs, these initial coin offerings. All this kind of stuff runs on Ethereum.
Right.
If that were used to crowdfund some of these thorium reactors, because right now these are still in the experimental stage. They've
They are.
been proven.
Where are they at?
The legacy, you can just go to there's
I'm trying to close out of this because I don't know if I want to have those guys staring at me like that. I don't want to get in trouble. Is that how they do it?
yeah, you can just
Bam?
yeah.
All right, there you go. There you go.
So you could use Ethereum to crowdfund these thorium reactors, which are just as clean as wind and solar. In fact, arguably cleaner because they eat up all this toxic waste we have sitting around that's going to last for thousands and thousands of years.
Nice.
Not with these thorium reactors.
Nice.
There's all kinds of different ways. There have even been proposals to track the carbon emissions of Bitcoin mining via the blockchain. What else would you use?
Right.
And then use that to go back to the miners and say, hey, you need to pay up in renewable credits for all the emissions that you're causing. Now they're in China, so China's not going to make them do that.
Right.
And they've quote unquote banned it anyway.
So Ethereum you said first of all, they can put sensors on everything.
Exactly.
Second of all, you can do crowdfunding.
Exactly.
Third
of all, you can structure things in a way so that everyone sees the results of the sensors. And it's not just, and when I say sensors, I mean sensor as in it's an actual thing in the tailpipe.
Yeah.
Not.
And then people can see that, and then it's
Exactly.
Okay.
Because when people can, it's very easy to blow off your carbon emissions because you can't see the end result. You can just, you're thinking, I'm driving my car around, I got to get somewhere, blah blah. It's invisible. It's not something that you can actually see. It's not even like the smog. Like at least the smog part of it you can see, but that doesn't affect climate change. That's particulates that affects your lungs, not climate change.
Right.
The carbon dioxide is invisible. It's harmless. It doesn't do anything. You can't detect it without a sensor.
Right.
But you can't tell that it's there.
Right.
And if Ethereum can actually show you what you're doing at each point in time, and say, hey, today you added such and such amount of not tons, but such and such amount of pounds to the global carbon budget. You personally took this much away. Then all of a sudden people say, hey, what do you mean I took this much away from the global carbon budget? What do you mean I did this?
Yeah.
What do you mean this is what's
It's kind of like a person who may have a drinking problem, and they're like, I drink, I don't see nothing wrong, I'm fine, blah blah blah. But then when they go in and they show you the spots that are on your liver because the cirrhosis have started to corrode your liver, when you see it, it's going to change your behavior. But if you can't see it, you probably are just going to go ahead with your traditional belief.
Exactly.
And that's what we're challenging right now.
Exactly. And there, again, I have to reiterate, there are all kinds of reasons that are legitimate on a personal level to not believe in climate change. I mean, you could be in the oil and gas industry, maybe you're in love with your car. That's a cultural thing. We've had car culture for a long time. And the important thing to remember there is that your classic car isn't doing a thing about climate change. The emissions from a classic car tailpipe are not even half a drop in the bucket. The problem is the millions of new cars out there that are on gasoline that a lot of people don't even like because they're too computerized.
Right.
So those are the problem. Those are what we have to get rid of. Those are what we have to replace with Teslas or Bolts or whatever else it is.
Walking. Why don't you try that?
Well, I mean, in some places, walking is fine.
Right.
In LA, sometimes it's less.
It's a little bit more. But I'm just saying we're not tied to always having to get in the car. Instead of driving 3 blocks to the grocery store, we could actually, get off our behinds and take the little stroll.
And that's a lot healthier too.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I mean, when we sit around all day, we aren't really supposed to sit around all day, I guess. It's like
the body is designed to be moved.
Exactly. Your body is designed to be moved. And so sometimes if there is the opportunity to walk, maybe it's a block or two away, maybe it's not that big a deal. I mean, you can have all kinds of reasons.
I know that there's more people. I don't know about those little miniature bikes and whatnot, but I know I see a lot more skateboarders. I see people on their bikes and whatnot. That's good stuff, So
that can increase your range by a few miles. And still be reasonable. No one expects you to be walking around 4 hours a day. But
it's not.
I mean, if you can get there in 20 minutes, one way or another, maybe it's worthwhile to just go ahead and.
So. In conclusion, support Ethereum because of the philosophy that's behind it.
Yes, it's decentralization. It says it's not just climate change. This is just one
aspect.
One aspect that can be tacked onto Ethereum.
Yeah.
And when you look at what Ethereum can do, it can provide alternatives to big problems that people are saying, this problem is so big, this climate change issue is so big, we need the state to solve it because we can't do it any other way and people aren't cooperating and we have to get in there with the power of the state and say, you are going to fix this.
Right.
We're just going to come in and take care.
Right.
And Ethereum, decentralized, allows people to do things freely of their own free will rather than going over to the China model proposed by AOC. We can still solve the problem even without going to these extreme lengths of printing a lot of money and having the government decide we're going to do this and this and this and this and this. The other thing, I almost spaced it.
Yeah.
The other problem with the current structure is that a lot of people in the oil and gas industry get displaced. And they were making real good money doing fracking or doing oil or doing whatever.
Yeah.
And now you're going to get rid of all that. You're going to pull the rug out from under them, and they're going to be at McDonald's. And they don't want to be at McDonald's.
All right.
Makes sense to me. So now AOC says the only way to solve that is to have me come in here with the Green New Deal and say, you need to have a solar panel factory on top of this fracking plant that we shut down. We shut down this fracking, we shut down this coal plant, and we're going to put a solar panel factory so that nobody really loses their job. They just got to do something else instead, and they don't really care.
Interesting. It's very, very interesting. Some of the things that excite me about crypto and Ethereum is that you actually can invest, and you can actually invest in something that you believe in. It's like something that actually means something rather than just trying to make money.
Exactly.
You can invest in change.
Exactly.
You can invest in change.
Invest in change.
Yes, indeed. So wherever you are on these issues, right, one side or the other side, is definitely food for thought, and it also allows you some more information about being knowledgeable where you're putting your money. So there it is. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you have any comments, please drop some below. If you have any information that could help us be better at what we're doing, please speak on it. Let us know. But until then, see you in the next one.
Cool.